Everybody, we got a minute or two before the show starts, so I just wanted to mention the sponsors who are helping chip in on the show. I'm pretty careful about taking sponsors. I only take things that I believe in and people I believe in, or people that are like-minded.
Way out where the cattails sway, in the muck where most won't stay, there's a shadow moving through the reeds. That ain't luck, that's a hunting beast. Got swamp mud up to his knees, tracks big bucks like it's a breeze. Got old raccoons eating from his hands. He's part wild, part myth, oh man. He walks on water in the cattail fog, whispers to critters like he's talking to God. From sunrise glass into last light stalks, he's a ghost in the woods that the big bucks talk. Spent a weekend with Pat and Pat. They said this summer hunt stock's where it's at. He's coming down, so y'all better feast. It's showtime now for the hunting beast. A public land preacher with a swamp-stained creed. He don't need luck, just a wind and a lead. With a bow in hand and fire in his eye, he'll track that buck till the day he dies. He's seen things deep in the brush and fog, where boots get swallowed by the bog. And if you doubt what legends mean, he's the reason deer don't sleep in them cedars green. He walks on water in the cattail fog, whispers to critters like he's talking to God. From sunrise glass into last light stalks, he's a ghost in the woods that the big bucks talk. Spend a weekend with Pat and Pat. They said this summer hunt stock's where it's at. He's coming down, so y'all better feast. It's showtime now for the hunting beast. He don't need no tree stand high. He'll crawl through briars low and slide. He reads the wind, he knows the signs, and he'll be dragging horns come closing time. He walks on water in the cattail fog, swamp-born bloodhound, a white-tailed dog. From backwoods bucks to legends and crease, there's no one hunts like the hunting beast. Yeah, hunt stock's calling, y'all bring your best, but Dan's already scooted the rest. So raise a beer and beat your chest. This song's for the king of the buck hunt quest.
What we got going on? You haven't seen this yet, Nicky?
This song is classic.
Way out where the cattails sway,
Some
in
banger.
the mud where most won't stay. There's a shadow moving through the reeds. That ain't luck, that's a hunting beast. Got swamp mud up to his knees, tracks big bucks like it's a breeze.
The world would be a better place if everybody wore a beast hoodie. There probably wouldn't even be any more shootings or anything. Everybody'd just be cool. It's a little over my boots. If you ever use these Lathrop & Son boots, they're a very sad boot until you get them muddy. That's a happy boot. Should have heated that up and put it in a coffee cup.
That's why they call him. That's why they call him. That's why they call him the Beast.
welcome everybody to another episode of the Beast Report bonus night. I'd like to welcome you to the Midwest Racks and Rods Outdoor Studio. My basement. Tonight, we're bringing you a bonus episode like we talked about last night for those of you that tuned in. And we have some fun stuff to talk about. So let's get this party started by bringing the man himself on, the hunting beast, Mr. Dan Infault. What's good, Dan?
What's going on?
Just, hanging out in the basement here tonight. I got, my wife works late on Mondays and Wednesdays, so I'm home alone with the kiddo. And so I had to kind of create a makeshift studio here in the basement. I think it turned out okay.
You and your studios. You need a nice closet like I got.
Yeah.
We'll get you there. We'll lower your morals.
We'll get there. So if there's any interruptions tonight, it would just be from my 7-year-old coming down. I said emergencies only, like the house is on fire, so
yeah,
we'll see. But yeah, like I said, this is a bonus episode. We talked about it last night a little bit, touched on it, and we brought a special guest on. You know him, you love him. Mr. Uncle Lou. Mr. Uncle Lou, that doesn't make any sense. How you doing, Lou?
Good, very good. Sorry about the audio. I don't know what's going on.
It doesn't sound quite as bad as it initially did. It does sound a little bit better. So and quite honestly, some of the static could be coming from Dan's end too. So
just blame me. It's usually me.
Yeah.
If everybody's ears rang as bad as mine, they wouldn't even notice it.
Let me know, guys, if you can hear Dan okay, if you can hear Lou okay, if I'm coming through loud and clear, just in case I have to make any changes to settings. But I think we're good to go. But I will keep an eye on the comments here. All right. Dan, Lou, there's a topic at hand here, and it's all over social media. Due in part to what's going on in Michigan, but it's not just a Michigan thing. So let me preface this entire episode here. This episode isn't to argue, to necessarily debate rights and wrongs here. It's just to share ideas. It's not to create divide amongst us or you guys or each other or the community as a whole. It's just it's a concern for a lot of people and not so much with others. So the topic at hand here, like I said, is what's been going on here in Michigan. But it's not just Michigan, because there's other states that kind of go through the same thing or have implemented these same types of things. But what I'm going to bring up here real quick here, and Lou, you can feel free to chime in here. But I just pulled up here. This was from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. This was, the letter that they put out, or what was it, Lou?
It was on their Facebook page. I tried to go to the DNR page to get something official, and I've spent way too much time on social media. But yeah, this is what they had posted on their Facebook page about the proposed changes. Sure.
In fact, here, they kind of bullet point some of the stuff right here. Why not take a look at it? It says 2027 changes to the statewide buck bag limit to 1 per hunter. Combo license is sold as 1 either sex regular tag and 1 antlerless deer restricted tag in the lower peninsula, and regular tag in the upper peninsula. Either an antlerless deer in archery only or 3-point APR during all seasons, and the restricted tag antlerless deer in the archery season only. The single deer license is valid for only an antlerless deer in the lower peninsula, and in the upper peninsula, either an antlerless deer in archery only or an antlered deer. Regional APRs and antlerless harvest restrictions may apply. Example, 3 points in NW13, 3 points on UP combo, etc. That's just in that first bullet point right there. If you don't hunt in Michigan and you're just looking at this, you're like me right now, and you're trying to figure it out. What on that bullet point right there? What exactly is it that they're talking about? If you could kind of maybe delineate that a little bit.
Scott, that's a brutal single bullet point.
I know, isn't it?
It's brutal, but It's like reading a lawyered up contract, you know, where there's a bunch of,
Yeah.
when you got multi semicolons in a long ass paragraph, you know, that's hard to read.
Yeah,
But
right.
basically, here, let me boil this down.
Sure.
That top bullet, and notice it says 2027, and we haven't even gotten to 2026. That's the $1 rule. Everybody in Michigan's calling that OBR. That's
Okay.
the $1 rule. Where I'm going to say traditionally, but I've only been here since 1990. But ever since I've been here, we've been able to get two buck tags. You can either buy the combo buck tag or a single buck tag. And I think in the early 90s, when I first got here, there was a archery buck tag and firearm, and I think it kind of got combined at some point in time. Because the one thing Michigan has, and a lot of people complain about Michigan's management, but the one thing we have is a lot of deer. And the other thing we have are a lot of hunters, and that has been in decline. And so every so often something pops up, and you saw, I think when you saw 3 points and stuff, there's been a lot of talk about APRs as well, the antler point restrictions. And then they went into some stuff about shortening seasons, condensing some early seasons, and you don't have it up anymore, but
Here, I'll pull it back up here.
it's kind of, it's, let me see. Yeah, so they're combining a couple of early seasons, the Liberty Hunt and the early Antlerless, and then they want to shorten the muzzleloader. As long as I remember, and man, I'm going back to like hunting with a muzzleloader since the late 90s. As long as I remember, I believe muzzleloader's always been 10 days, 2 full weekends. Starts on a Friday, closes on the next Sunday. Now they're talking about condensing muzzleloader season to 3 days. And in the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I probably could be corrected, but I think I'm close. They have extended the late muzzleloader season really to just another firearm season. So now that's the reference in the second bullet. They're calling it the December firearm season because it's really not a muzzleloader. I mean, nobody's using a muzzleloader anymore. It's just a second firearm season. And then when that ends, they go right into late antlerless. So maybe that's why they're shortening that season, because I keep looking for the herd management part, and it's just not jumping out at me.
Dan, what do you think?
Well, to go back to the beginning, the reason we're having this conversation is because on the last show that we did, somebody asked the question of what I thought about Michigan's changes,
Yeah, that was last week's show. Yep.
and I talked about them a little bit. And Lou sent me a message and said, "Great show, except the crap about Michigan." And we had a conversation, and he didn't see eye to eye with me completely on the way I see things. And it's not really my fight. I'm not from Michigan. I mean, not argument-wise, but what we both think will happen out of it. And I thought it would be a good opportunity for us to have that discussion online, because this goes deeper than Michigan. It's like across the country, everybody wants to have better hunting.
Yeah.
Everybody strives for what will fix their hunting, and if make it better or whatever. Everybody that's in Wisconsin wants Iowa, and everybody in across the country wants something like that, And how do you make hunting better for everyone, not just a certain group of hunters, right? And I kind of felt like I was getting a little lumped into the trophy hunter guy, which I guess rightfully so. But I'm not as much trophy hunter as what you think I am. I kind of like the idea of deer management. So those are my thoughts. And if I wouldn't have showed that jumbled legal piece of paper. I would have just said, what they want to do is they want to go from $2 shot with a gun, a bow, anything, to $1 statewide. And Michigan, for its size, I think probably has the most hunters of anywhere. Maybe Pennsylvania beats them. I don't know, but they've got a lot of hunters. And for every hunter to be able to shoot $2 is crazy. Now, the argument that some have is that only 6% shoot that second buck. But in my eyes, you know, a whole bunch of them shoot the first buck because they can, and they still have a tag, and then they hold out for something big, and that kind of messes things up. But I think, in my eyes, I see Michigan could be way better for everybody, not just trophy hunters, but for everybody deer wise. If shooting a buck is on their agenda, and if it's shooting a doe, they've already got plenty of does, you know. But I think what we should do is probably break this down in each of the three categories, and just have a discussion about it.
That sounds good.
So to get
That's
into
what I wanna
number
start with.
one is the one buck rule, which I think is the biggest debate. Wouldn't you say, Lou?
I would agree with that. I think it is. And then a lot of people have been tacking stuff onto that, but I agree with you. Go ahead.
Okay, so what one buck rule would do is right now. Last time I hunted Michigan, I bought 2 buck tags. The only time I was ever successful with bucks in Michigan, I shot 2 in the same season. But outside of that, I never shot another one. But it's kind of nice, but I don't think that the hunting can support the amount of pressure. I think a lot of guys when they shoot their buck, they leave hunting, and I'm just going to give my general points on this, and then Lou can give his, and then we can kind of debate. But
Sure.
for me, I don't think we're taking anything away from guys that claim to be meat hunters. If you want to be a meat hunter, shoot a doe. And then they'll say, well, I like to shoot a buck. Well, okay, so do I. You know, maybe I hold out for a bigger one than you do, but you obviously got some sort of trophy hunter in you if you're looking for a set of antlers. Maybe you only have a weekend to hunt. You just want to get a buck. I get that. I get that a lot. But you would have a hell of a lot more bucks to hunt in that case. And I just think it would all around be a better state if they only allowed 1 buck. I don't think I always had that feeling. When I was younger and more about myself, I always argued that in Wisconsin, I liked the fact that we kill 2 bucks. But in Wisconsin, it's a little different. You can kill one with a gun, one with a bow.
Right.
Technically, you can kill 2, but with a bow, because you can hunt with a bow during gun season.
With the lesser weapon.
Right. And you can shoot all the bucks you want with a gun, some people would argue. Because we have party hunting, where you're allowed to fill other people's tags with a gun.
Right. But just to clarify, though, that second archery buck would have to be done. So let's say you shot 1 buck in November, early November, October, whatever. Then if you want to use your bow again to kill another buck, it would have to be during that 9-day.
Right, during a gun season. Not 9 days.
Yes, you're correct.
Gun
Also
or
use
muzzleloader.
as
Any
well.
gun season, you can hunt with a bow, a lesser weapon.
Correct.
So you can shoot two bucks in Wisconsin, but not the same as Michigan. I do think 1 buck in Wisconsin would make this one of the premier destinations in the world, and I do think 1 buck in Michigan would make Michigan an incredible state. Michigan's been on a decline. I can remember 15, 20 years ago when it was listed as like in the top 20 for Boone and Crockett's, and it's not no more. It's like gone down. Other states have picked up above it. But anywho, what are your thoughts on the 1 buck rule, Lou?
You know, you asked me the other day when we were talking about it, how many times have I actually shot 2 bucks? And I think twice. And then I kept thinking, my initial thought before we spoke last Saturday night was, they're solving a problem that doesn't exist because you said the number 6%. I've heard 6, 7, 8. It's less than 10, so I'm not arguing that. But I'm thinking, why are they trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist? And then you pointed out, well, a lot of guys shoot that first buck and keep hunting. And that is nice. I do like that. But what I told you is I don't care if we're a 1 buck state, a 2 buck state, a 10 buck state. What my fear is, I said, when I saw all this, it looks like, because when you get past the bullets on that page and you get into the debate and you start following this stuff, they're talking about pushing back the traditional opener. They're talking about shortening the gun season. They're talking about 1 buck. They're talking about APRs and doing all of this. Now, that's not on the page show, but that's what's being talked about, and I'm not for that because my biggest fear is that there's a lot of people are going to stop hunting, and we're going to lose deer hunters, and we can't afford to do that anymore. Over the last 20 years, I believe Michigan went from 800,000 to 550. So again, I'm not against trophy hunting. I love trophy hunters. I'm just not one of them. So I like the opportunity, and I couldn't find it before we got on here. I thought Michigan's DNR or NRC or whoever, I thought they were originally charged with to provide us with opportunity. Now, maybe opportunity is a word that has open to interpretation, and that's why we're talking about it. But I'm not against $1 rule per se. If they just come out in 2027, like that sheet said, but as soon as they did it and they went to that meeting, people are saying, do it now. There's no reason to wait. And do it with APRs and push the gun season, and that's just too much. They're gonna push people out. Whatever you think about baiting, and I don't bait. I'm not gonna say I've never thrown a little bit of corn down, but when baiting went away, I didn't go, I'm never hunting again. But a bunch of people did. So
There's a difference in baiting, though. Baiting, the people who were baiters, born baiters, their dads were baiters, their grandfathers were baiters, they don't know anything different. They're lost in the woods. They don't even know how to set up a tree stand, how to go someplace. They hunted the same tree, the same pile of bait their whole life. You're changing their whole style of hunting. When you tell me that you're going to make a rule that makes big bucks all over the place and more deer all over the place and more opportunity and people are going to quit hunting, I don't think so. I think they're going to threaten it because it worked with baiting. I think they're going to threaten it because they're angry and maybe they even believe it. I'll quit hunting.
yeah.
But maybe they quit for a season. When they see the state get way better, in my eyes, they'll come back to it.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. And you know, to baiting, like it's so funny when it comes to baiting. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and I couldn't believe that he brought up, and I said, hey, you hearing this stuff? What's going on? What are your thoughts? And he goes, what's really going on? I've been tuning it out. And I was tuning it out too until last Saturday, and we got talking about it. And he goes, I don't bait, and I don't care about baiting, but I wish they'd bring it back. You know, that's what he said. And I go, that's so funny because I feel the same way. Just because those people have a place. You know, however you want, as long as it's legal. When it's illegal, then yeah, you can't do it. But that's my fear. That's my only fear. I do not care if somebody shoots a big buck, but and I'm probably jumping ahead a little bit. But the other thing, I've been shooting mediocre to average bucks and a lot of does. I feel like I'm not the problem. I've always targeted high deer areas because I like to see deer and I like to shoot deer, but I'm not the problem. But I'm not seeing any real emphasis on lowering the doe population. It's all this. They keep talking about herd management, but it's all about shooting less bucks. And then we're a state that has 3 zones, and we used to have. This is the 2022 guide. See all those little numbers? Hang on. See all those little numbers? Those were deer management.
Let me blow you
units.
up here for a second. Go
Don't-
ahead.
you don't even
Back
have to
up
blow-
again.
There you go. See all those, they're almost county by county. Those are what used to be called, this is 2022. Hang on, this is 2022. Those are called deer management units. You know what the map looks like now? Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3. Zone 1's the UP, Zone 2 is the northern lower, and Zone 3 is the southern. And that's why there were all those semicolons in that opening paragraph, because they're trying to like act like they're managing it per zone, but we used to manage it per deer management unit. And now we're not, so it's like, we're just...
Yeah, careful what you wish for though, because they did that in Wisconsin. Wisconsin was like 3 or 4 units, deer units,
Yep.
and then well, maybe a little more than that, but they condensed it to per county. It's the county's the unit now, and now if I get a doe tag for Jefferson County, I can't hunt, 2 miles south of my or east of my property in Waukesha County.
Right,
Being a public,
without getting another doe tag.
I hunt like 7 or 8 counties in Wisconsin in a season, and I have to pick exactly what county I want to hunt in for my doe. So I don't like that micromanaging.
In addition, you also have to designate private or public too. You know.
Yes.
If
So
you
I have to have a
private land
tag
somewhere,
for.
but you want to hunt public there.
Yeah,
You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole.
So if I pick a
puzzle piece you
public
gotta
land doe tag, and something's going on my property here, my food plot, and a doe starts coming. I'm like, oh, I'd like to shoot that. I got to go buy another tag.
Yeah.
So it kind of sucks.
And I guess, but now you can buy a doe tag, and it's a universal doe tag, and you can go up to the northern lower where there's a lot less does, and that's your weekend to go hunting with the gang, and you go out there and you see a doe and you shoot it, and maybe you were in an area where there weren't a lot of does, and here we're talking about dropping buck tags. So I get your point, but it was managing the herd to
You're
the
saying
to the
just
area.
managing bucks is what you're saying. It's not addressing the doe problem. I get that, but careful what you wish for, because I can tell you what it's going to be if they're forced to manage the doe herd. It's going to be earn a buck.
Well, they already did that. I'm telling you, they went away from this, Dan. We already had that. Now it's 3 zones. So I
They
can
had earn a
buy.
buck? Michigan had earn a buck?
No. They had deer management units. Now they don't. And that's 2022. I don't know when they ended it, but now all of a sudden, in the last few years, we just started buying a universal doe tag. I think you can go up to the UP and shoot a doe. There's no deer up there.
We kind of agree on the doe tag thing and the units. Okay, so I don't, where you go in certain areas of the UP and stuff, they shouldn't be given doe tags at all. I agree with that. Certain areas they should, certain areas they shouldn't, and that could be micromanaged because of that situation up there in Lower Michigan. I don't think they have that problem anywhere
No.
with doe. So I think they should do something to get rid of more does, or to promote it. Michigan,
Yes.
or any other state I've ever been in, has a heritage of guys that are buck only. They do not shoot does. I mean, that was everywhere at one point, but that just seemed to never leave the culture
It-
of Michigan. And I
It
think
has.
one of the ways you do it is, I hate earn a buck. I think of that as a last resort because it'll screw up a herd in a hurry. But I know a lot of people argue with me on that, but I've seen what it does in areas. If they gave, like they do in Wisconsin, free doe tags when you bought your buck tag. So basically, in my eyes, Wisconsin's doing it right with the free tags. I just don't like the micromanagement of the counties. So if they gave the tags with the tag, because in my eyes, their job is to manage the deer herd, the numbers. You pay your price, and then you take your bag limit. Not you pay per animal you kill, and like they're selling the animals to you like they're the king. It should be that you buy the license once, and then they decide how many animals you can take based on the management of the herd. So if your county has too many does, say they give, like you're seeing 20 does per sit and 1 buck, maybe they give 3 or 4 doe tags, considering most people won't shoot them or shoot all of them. They give 3 or 4 doe tags free. Now, these guys that don't shoot a lot of does are way more likely to shoot one if they got a tag in their pocket burning a hole. So that's how you handle the doe situation. But the argument here isn't really about managing does. It's about managing the bucks. I agree, does should be in the conversation. It's not being in the conversation, and it should be.
Well, they're selling this that it's overall herd management, but all they're doing, and we have, so the estimates are, I'm just saying what the estimates are. I'm not saying I believe it or don't believe it. They're saying we have 2 million deer.
Mhm.
So they're definitely not endangered, right? And so we have all these deer, and they're going to manage the herd, or they're going to make the herd better, and they're going to do that by shooting 1 less buck.
Yep.
So now the combo tag, you used to, when you came over here last, Dan, and we talked about like what tag should you get and all this, and you decided to go with the combo because you can shoot a buck and keep hunting, and you can even shoot does, I believe, on the combos even when you came here. Where it used to be you could not fill a combo. Your
I
combo,
would have to take a doe instead of a buck, right?
nope, your combo tag is $2. Traditionally, it's $2, and then in the last few years, they made it where you could actually put your buck tag on a doe because they're trying
That's
to
what you
encourage.
said. You said no. I said
Well,
you have to take your buck tag and put it on a doe.
You don't have to. You can.
Yeah, right. But if you want to shoot a doe, you have to use your buck tag to tag it.
No.
You don't have an extra doe tag.
No, you
That's
can
not-
buy it. You can
Okay.
buy it, so you don't have to.
but they should give you one.
Well, and I'm not arguing that, but if if I had an overabundance of does, I wouldn't be charging $20 for a buck tag and $20 for a doe tag. I'd say, here's what 5, 10, whatever the number is to get people to do it, right? So they're trying to encourage it. So anyway, a combo tag is $2. And in the last few years, you can choose to take a doe on that buck tag. But the proposal is the new combo tag is $1, one doe. Same price. It's still going to be $20 of deer. There's no incentive. That's going to tick people off. That right there. That you won't let them just buy the $1 tag. You're going to make it a $1 state and force them to buy 2 tags.
There's a lot of places do that. Iowa did that. Iowa was talking about how people were not shooting does. This is a while back. I talked to the biologist at a deer show. They were asking my opinion on it. One of the biologists, and I told them what they should do is give a doe tag to everybody that gets the buck tag. Just give them one. And they said that's a brilliant idea. And then when it came out, they charged for it. They got a mandatory. You have to pay for the doe tag. But I will say that I would not go to Iowa and buy a doe tag for $125 as a non-resident. I wouldn't do it. Wouldn't shoot it. But if I have that doe tag in my pocket,
Yeah.
and I fill my buck tag, or it's in a spot where I don't think I'm going to get my buck, and it's the end of the day or whatever, and a doe comes by, I might shoot one. I'm not that much of a trophy hunter. I do like deer meat, right? But going back to your management thing, you're talking about how it's bad management to lower the number of bucks if they're trying to lower the herd numbers, which I think you're missing a point.
I don't know that I said it's
The point
bad.
is that there is bad management going on in Michigan right now, because the herd should be diversified. There should be age groups in that herd. There should be a certain number of bucks per doe. There should be a ratio, and there's not. The does are skewed from the bucks, and by shooting less bucks, you're going to have more bucks in that herd, and you're going to have a better age class. All the bucks aren't going to be little baby 1.5-year-old bucks. Maybe that's the trophy hunter in me, but I don't like shooting baby anything. I don't want to shoot a baby squirrel. I don't want to shoot a baby bunny. I want to shoot mature animals. If you notice something about me, it's not like I'm looking for this, 200-inch animal. I'm looking for a mature animal. That's me. I know that's not you. That's me. You get more meat, you get more bone, you have something on the wall, you got a challenge. And it's because I hunt so much that I'll fill that buck tag right away. But for me, even with how much I hunt, I don't want to stop hunting when I shoot a buck. I keep hunting. But then I got to run out of state. I would rather run out of state and have great hunting at home. I would rather every time I go hunting in Michigan, I see 5 or 10 bucks. And maybe 1 or 2 good ones. Maybe I get one of those good ones. Maybe you, instead of going a week and seeing 20 does and 1 buck, you go a week and see 20 does and 5 bucks. I think you'd have a better hunt, personally.
Dan, I'm not against $1. I'm against $1 shortening the gun season. They're not proposing all this, but there's a lot of talk.
You're combining all the issues. In this
I am.
particular section, we were just talking about $1.
Okay, and
I might agree with you on some of the things you're getting to.
I'm not against that, but remember, originally, the only thing I fear is that this is going to be divisive, like the baiting issue, and it's going to stop hunter numbers, or not stop, reduce, and we don't need that. That's it. I mean, I don't really care. I wasn't going to get involved at all. I was going to roll with it. And then I start reading all this stuff, and I'm like, where is this coming from? I wanted to know what is actually being proposed. But it's
So basically, your argument is too much at once.
100%. 100% if they do all the things talked about. But then when you go look at what Scott put up that's on the DNR Facebook page, I couldn't find that on the DNR's page. If they do all that at once, yeah, that's just too much at once. They can't move back the there's a bunch of make Michigan, Iowa things talked about. It's not all in here, but it's being talked about in every conversation. Whether it's, I watched a lot of the testimony from the DNR meeting, the April 8th meeting, and they were talking about a lot more than this, and do it now and push the seat. Yeah, too much at once is what I'm against. I'm not against $1. No, I'm I could roll with that, but man, if we go from 500,000 to 300,000, and I told you that when we spoke last Saturday night, and you said, but if that happens, the hunting's going to get so good, people will be running. I hope you're right, Dan, but I don't see it.
I do.
I
It's
hope
just,
you're right.
you know what the problem is? A whole bunch of little whiny little bitches are going to stop it midstream. It'll get going or it won't get going because of those little bitches. And when if it gets going, they're going to stop it before it actually has the time to impact. And I'm just being serious here. I really believe that. That every place they've implemented one buck rule, I've talked to people and had multiple people. The majority of the people tell me I was against it when it came here. Now I'm for it after I've seen what it did. The majority of people tell me that. The
And
majority of people, are mad. I'm going to quit hunting. I'm going to do, and they come around when they see the impact it has. But that's one buck rule. That's not everything you're talking about here, or
Right.
everything Michigan's talking about.
it is a
You know,
broader conversation. Go
I
ahead.
think we kind of agree on the one buck rule. I mean, maybe not, but I don't think you're as dead set against it. And let's talk about APRs.
Okay.
What do you think about APRs? Do you know what they are? Is it like a 4-point rule one side, or I'm not familiar with what they want to do?
So, and I don't, Scott, you don't need to zoom in. I'm just going to show this. This is a color-coded map, and by color codes, that's what you can do with your combo tag. So, we've had APRs in this state for a long time. Now, the Northwest 13 is, and it used to be the Northwest 12, but they expanded it. That's the Northwest. That's this. Hang on, it's hard to move your hand opposite. That's this area.
Yep,
That dark green. Hang on, right here.
dark green. Yeah.
And they're really reporting some great things. I'm even interested in going over there hunting, and I haven't yet. And that's just with, I believe APRs. They're still $2, but I think it's 3-point on the side here. Let me look at it. So there's restrictions on the first tag and restrictions on the second. Now in Michigan, prior to whatever's going to happen, you can buy one buck tag. And I don't know about the UP, but pretty much in the entire lower. Let me scan this. And again, this is 2022. It's older, but you could shoot any buck, a spike, whatever. You were asking me what my thoughts were APRs.
Mhm.
I'm against them, dead set. No, I don't care. I just like to shoot deer.
Yeah.
Just give me
Like
the
this.
rules. Give me the rules, and I'll shoot a spike. I'll shoot a scraggle. I'll shoot any legal deer. If I have a tag in my pocket, and I decide that the weather's right to hang and skin, and I got a couple days to butcher, and I plan it all out. Where man, I'm ready to go. I don't give a crap what steps out. If I got a tag in my pocket, if it's a little doe or a big doe or a little buck or a big buck, if it's legal, I'm shooting. If I'm in the mindset, every now and then when it's real hot out, I'm like, gosh, I don't even want to mess with one, and then something steps out that you're gonna mess with. But I just like to shoot deer, and like I've never been pheasant hunting or squirrel hunting or rabbit hunting and said, no, that one's just too small. And a deer's bigger than all of those animals. So I just shoot deer. And there's a lot of people like me just buy tags. And
Yeah, but in the same. I mean, let's be honest here. If 150-inch 12-pointer came walking out in a fork-horn, you're shooting a 12-pointer. You might even, if they're walking in a line, you might even let the small buck go past for a chance at that big one if you think he's going to come past you. I believe.
in the day, back when I started following your stuff, I found you around '08. About 9, 10, I got ate up with it, and I graduated from buttons to spikes to scraggles to like basket eights, and then I think if I shot my $2 in 1 year, it was in 10 and 14 if I remember right, but whatever. And then I just realized like, nah, I think it would be funny now. If you always say I should film some of my hunts, I swear to you, if you were filming me and there was a 150 and a little one in front, I'd shoot the little one in front just for a laugh, and it's easier to drag out. But back in the day, yes, to be honest, everybody wants to shoot a big buck. My friend Tony, every year he would tell me, I just want to shoot a big buck. And I said, Tony, you and 500,000 other hunters, everybody wants to shoot a big buck. That's human nature.
I cherished the days when I was a kid, just going out and hunting and killing whatever came out. I loved it. But I don't think it's a bad idea to have some rules. Now, as far as APR, I do have some issues with it. It does scare me a little bit. I mean, the place where I hunted down south last year with the hunting public, I mean, it was so scary hunting because there's a big fine if you break the rule. And it was a spread rule. And the deer are smaller than up here. And I'm not really sure how much that affects the ear to ear tip. And we're trying to look it up and stuff. And I'm looking at some pretty nice bucks walking past me. And if you watch those videos, you see me passing on some pretty nice bucks just because I'm not taking a chance I'm shooting something illegal, you know? And it was kind of a bummer feeling. Like, I don't want to make a mistake. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But the point numbers, it's a little easier. Now, 3-point rule is kind of weird because it's just like you can shoot anything but a spike. Why don't they just say that? You know?
No, 3 points on a side.
Yeah, I know. I understand that,
Okay.
but that's almost anything but a spike, right?
Okay.
The one thing I like about APRs is that it prevents, or one of the things I like about APRs, is it prevents people from having tags in their pocket to shoot any deer they see, which makes things safer. No matter what anybody says, if you have to look at the animal and make sure it's a deer and actually look at the rack, I do believe that makes hunting safer, that you're more careful about what you're shooting than if you have a tag for anything and you start spraying bullets at every deer that jumps up. I don't think that's as safe. Not to say hunting isn't a lot safer than it used to be, right? But now, the other issue I have is when they have most places have like a 4-point APR, one side 4 points. You said 3, but 4 points. Man, there's some areas up by you that got like massive 6-pointers where genetically they grow big 6-point racks, like center of the state and such. I've seen it. I've been in camps where the mature bucks are like 8s without brows, 6s. You know.
Yeah.
We don't really get that around here. And around here, an APR with 4 points would be just about every deer because your year and a halves have 4 points. It would protect the spikes and the forkhorns, right? And kill the better year and a half old deer. So APRs, they work to grow bigger bucks, but they also got some faults where it causes you to have to pass on mature animals. I remember I saw an animal, this is a weird story, but when I was a young man and going through my trophy phase, which most people do when they're, like 20 years old, and I stalked up on this buck in its bed with a gun in my hand, and it looked at me. I put my gun on it, and I remember it was a massive mature buck. I mean, with beams this big around, Coke can beams, and it was wide and had a giant fork on both sides. And I passed that deer because I didn't think it would score well. And now, thinking back, I wish I would have shot that thing. It was so cool. I've always kind of regretted that. But in some APRs, I wouldn't be able to shoot a deer like that. A mature 4-pointer. Which, to me, if you had to do an APR, if you could add something like or 14 inches wide, I don't know how you do it, but I just think that I don't like the fact that it misses certain mature bucks and it kills some immature bucks that have a lot of potential. Like your best potential year and a half old buck probably already has 4 or 5 points on a side. So the APR, although it does, every place they put it, people have liked the fact that they got more mature bucks. But I think limiting how many you kill is a better option than how many points it has on its head, in my opinion. I think an APR, I think, would be nice if they didn't kill spikes, maybe. But when they start getting into the 4-point rule and stuff, I don't really like it.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we have 3-point and 4-point APRs, and depending on if it's your restricted or regular tag and what zone you're in. So we have both.
Now, if I might be wrong here, but I thought I remember hearing something about a 4-point. That's why I was surprised when you said 3. So I was probably just thinking about a different area than you were. But if I remember correct, it was like you could shoot the first buck you saw, but then your second buck you had to use the APR. Is that correct?
Not entirely. It is in certain zones. So not to keep, and this is a 2022, but see the different colors?
Yes.
And then see the table? And then that table tells you what you can do by color. So there's some areas where you have zero restrictions on your first tag. You don't
And then
pay
you have
it,
restrictions on your second.
and you have restrictions on your second. And then there's areas, the northwest, the trophy area, you have restrictions on your first and second. So it depends what color you're in. And
If you want to manage deer, you don't try to manage the little 6% that people shoot. You know what I mean?
no, say
You
that
already,
again.
if you want to manage deer, you don't manage it with the 6% that's the second deer people shoot. The tiny little number. You manage it with the bigger number if you want to actually grow bigger bucks. So that's poor management to do it on the second tag.
Oh, I see. And that was valid. You know, I kept, and when we spoke on last Saturday night, I said they're solving a problem that doesn't exist. And then you made that point that you wouldn't be shooting that deer. You'd be thinking about it, looking for a better buck, and you'd let some of them grow up. And I'm still mixed.
I have to be honest. I mean, in Wisconsin, and I kind of disagree with the way we do things, but I kind of fall into it myself. If I'm honest, I'm when we're gun hunting, a nice buck jumps up and I shoot it. Who wants it? Somebody tags it because we're allowed to party hunt, and I know there's people in my group that will take it, and they tell me beforehand, you see a nice buck, take it. And if I can shoot a nice buck that maybe I'd put on the wall, I'll end up shooting that thing, even though I want a bigger one, because I know I have another tag. And that's what's happening when you give two tags to a bow hunter too. If a buck comes in, he'll shoot it, and then he'll wait for a bigger one. And I'm okay with shooting that first buck, no matter what. I mean, if you're going to shoot it because you like meat, you like deer, you want to shoot one, you got a weekend, that's great. But if you're a guy who wants giant bucks, and you shoot that first buck just because you can, while you're waiting for the next one, you're hurting the herd. And even though that person kind of knows that, he thinks, well, one person, me, I'm not the problem. It's the whole group. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I still. There's a lot of people, Dan, out of the 500,000 licensed hunters that we have in this state. I bet you there's a high percentage of those, maybe half, that get to go up for opening weekend or the first weekend, or very limited, and to tell them they can't shoot. You know, if they do APRs and one buck, I'm for opportunity. You know,
Yeah.
over big bucks.
Hold on a second. If let's say you have a third of your, maybe even more, maybe like 30 or 40% of your herd is spikes in this area, right? And these guys go up, and every year they get a spike, and then now they can't shoot the spike. Spikes go by, and they can't shoot them, and they're mad, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying, right? So maybe spikes and forks, right? Whatever, within that APR, and they're mad because they can't shoot them. But the next year, now 10% are spikes and forks, and now all of a sudden there's all these rack bucks running around that they can shoot. Why would they be mad? They're mad because of 1 year.
Yeah,
One
I
year
mean, that's
they're
the argument. It just seems a little bit too that it's being forced. I don't know where this came from. Like, there's got to be a.
I think it's kind of being pushed by people who've seen what happens and seen what happens in management that want to change things for the better. And I think that the kickback is people that are, and I hate to say this, but people that are set in their ways, that just think any change is bad. We've got it good. I like shooting my deer every year, and more power to them, but they'd still be able to shoot their deer every year. It'd just be better deer, and they'd see more of them. And what is bad about seeing more deer and better deer? Now, I agree. Now we're starting to get into I'm seeing different results than you, but we're arguing about the same thing because I don't like APRs. You don't like APRs, but we're both okay with the what was the first one?
One buck rule, and
Buck. So I don't see that. You know, I see where, but you're not really arguing me. You're arguing what it's going to do to the public, and I just don't see it as being a problem. I think those people that you're talking about are gonna, again, they're gonna stomp their feet. They're gonna say, "I'll never hunt again," and maybe that first year they don't buy a tag, but I think the next year they will, based on those two arguments. I think there are some arguments where you got some merit coming up in the next topic or two.
Oh, Lou, we lost audio on you.
Did you turn them off?
No. Wait, maybe I did. If I did, it was.
Now he's on.
There we go.
Okay. I had a little pop up on the screen. I thought maybe I was interrupting Dan too
Yeah,
much, and you
I don't know
muted
how
me.
that.
Yeah, you muted him and you didn't realize it.
Oh,
Right.
what the heck did you say? We were
Yeah. Could you repeat that, Dan?
I have no idea what you just said.
good because I was. Oh. Yeah, I forgot the last point when we got the technical difficulty.
Should we just start the whole show over?
Let's
Right.
start over.
All right, guys, we'll be right back.
You're serious? You
No,
cancel?
absolutely not.
Absolutely.
I think one of the things you brought up is they want to change to gun season.
Yes.
And the gun season now falls during rut. And I think they want to take that outside of rut. They want to push it back. Which, date-wise, I think that if you look at most places that have rut during gun season that have heavy pressure, rut just kind of stops when guns start. It just kind of really, does a number on rut. So I don't know that rut really comes into play with gun season that much, But on a different note, a lot of guys in Michigan, especially the UP, hunt both Michigan and Wisconsin, and a lot of people in Wisconsin hunt both Michigan and Wisconsin, right?
Right.
Especially the upper half of Wisconsin and the UP. And when you put those dates at the same time, those hunters you are going to lose. They're going to have to pick. They're going to have to choose a state because you got the hunting season will be at the same time, correct?
What about the same time?
So the
UP
gun
and Wisconsin.
seasons, if they got their way, would be at the same time as Wisconsin.
Oh,
And I think-
yeah. Now that wasn't in the official proposal, but there's a lot of talk about it. So now we're kind of getting
Okay.
into.
Okay, that's not in the proposal.
It's not in the proposal. What is in the proposal, to stay to the proposal first, is shortening the muzzleloader season. And I'm unclear if they're talking about, because right now there is no real muzzleloader season other than the UP. In the zone 2 and zone 3, it's just any legal firearm. So it's a second firearm season going for 10 days. They're talking about, I think, second bullet. Shorten the statewide muzzleloader season to 3 days, where it's been traditionally 10.
Okay. So what I would do with that is I'd leave your gun season where it's at. I think that I don't care if it's in rut that much, but I would take that muzzleloader season and I would make it muzzleloaders,
I would
Not
love
rifles.
that.
not rifles.
But
You have a rifle season. I also think that your gun season, how long is your actual regular rifle season?
15 days.
Too long. It should be a
Yeah,
week.
15 days. And then it goes November 15th to 30th. And then the first Friday of December starts the muzzle loading. And the UP is a little different, but I think the UP we can, no disrespect to the UP, but really that's a whole different conversation up there. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, the UP with the
Yeah.
wolves and low deer, it's really not what we're talking about. That they don't need the herd imbalance; they need some wolf shot. I mean, here's zone 1. That's the UP. Let's get it out of the way. You want to fix the problem up there? Take care of some wolves. You got apex predators running unchecked.
Yeah, I don't know if you can do that. That's
Agreed.
just so hard to get that done.
The courts,
But
I agree.
do
But,
agree with you. I do agree with you.
but aside from that, anybody could solve the UP's problems if they could get it through the courts, and you can't. But there's no deer up there. You got harsh winters, and you got wolves. So that deer herd's not coming back until you can get the courts fixed. So zone 2 and zone 3 on shortening muzzleloader, I think what they're trying to do there is take the pressure off the bucks. And I don't know why. They're now, I misspoke there. They're trying to take the pressure off the bucks by that second 10-day season, and they're shortening that, and then they're going to come in with antlerless right on top of it. Finally, some talk about balancing the herd, which is a real problem in the southern. So in zone 3, let me jump to zone 3, which is our southern. We have big bucks, and I told you, I go, if you looked at the Michigan buck poll and you look at Michigan Woods and Water magazine, the slammers Michigan's laying down, you would I look at it and I laugh, like, what are we complaining?
Yeah.
because everybody doesn't get a trophy. There's only, 10,000 guys that are shooting 180-inch deer instead of a 500,000 guys. They're supposed to
I
grow
can
big
guarantee
deer.
you there's not 10,000 people shooting 180-inch deer in Michigan.
Man, okay, maybe not 180, but I'm telling you, if you go look at Michigan buck poll day in, day out, and Michigan woods and water that cover, you're just like, holy smokes, there's big deer here.
So what do you want to do? Stop that and make sure they only shoot fork horns? I mean, I don't get your.
No. They're
You're gonna make
all.
it better. If you're going to increase on it and make it better, I don't.
Here's my point. They're already getting great deer in zone 3 with
Yeah.
2 bucks,
Mhm.
and they've got too many does, and though I think it's zone
Yeah,
3.
shoot one buck and then shoot a doe
So
instead of letting all the does pass.
I'm telling you, there's a bunch of big bucks being shot in Michigan. It's mostly in zone 3.
Right.
There's none of these restrictions so far, and so other than the restricted tag APRs in the southern zone, so they're already getting big bucks and they have too many does. So the people that already have big bucks, but they have too many does now, and I'm just assuming that those are the people that are proposing to ram this 1 buck rule and some of these other items statewide. They already have great buck hunting. They've got too many does, so that's the problem. And they're the ones that are going to give us the solution on how to hunt. They need to control their own
I don't
does.
know what you're getting at. You're kind of going in circles here.
They-
So what are they damaging? How are they hurting the state by making it
They're
a
not.
1 buck rule?
We already have. There's 2 bucks already.
Right.
You don't. They didn't need a regulation to fix it. What they need to do is shoot more does down here. Is what I'm telling you.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
I just don't think the state has enough bucks.
If you're going to
Maybe
balance the
there's
herd,
areas, maybe there's areas, but I would have to say those areas too would get better with 1 buck.
if you're going to
I'd say
balance,
most of those guys, I would say, well over 90% of those guys. As a matter of fact, according to the DNR, it's like 93% of them or 94% of them that shoot that big buck that you're seeing only shoot that big buck you're seeing. So, taking away that second buck, if they want to hunt, shoot a doe. Manage the herd. If you got too many does, that's how you do it.
I mean,
you
you're
promote it.
speculating on that.
Start giving free tags away with it. I would say that the guys that trophy hunt are the ones that are more likely to get 2 bucks than 1 because they're a little more obsessed. So they're probably a little more of the percentage that shoot 2 than the meat hunters.
And I was back to the point you said I wasn't making any sense or going in circles. I'm telling you, the southern zone is fine other than too many deer.
Okay.
They don't need a 1 buck rule down there. They just don't need it. And
Right.
and they've got too many deer. So the state should encourage by dropping the price of a doe tag to encourage that. But
But they should leave it 2 bucks is what you're saying in that area?
I mean, why not? It's not hurting anything.
Well, that's not helping anything. It's
It hasn't hurt anything. So why take something
skewing the
away?
number of deer. I don't think there's too few deer in that lower half. I mean,
Oh.
I think there's a lot of deer, right? You agree with me to that? Maybe you're saying maybe too many. I don't know that
Too
there's too
many.
many. I don't know
Too
that there's
many.
too many. But what I would like to see is that herd to be balanced. I would like to see this that 1 out of every 3 deer be a buck. I'd like to see that in that
On-
area, which
on
would
the
mean
herd.
shooting less bucks. And if you have bucks that are what you're considering big, which I'm saying are not that 180 class, 10,000 of them. I'm saying what you're considering big are nice bucks for anybody. But if you could raise that number and double that number of giant bucks, make them bigger, and have more bucks per doe, I think that it'd be great. Like in Wisconsin, they manage by numbers, and a lot of what you're promoting to me seems like number management. I don't like number management. Wisconsin does that to a T. They're all about 5 deer per square mile or whatever, and you've got 100 hunters per square mile. They start managing for numbers, and they get those does down to that 5 per square mile. You're not going to see any big bucks getting shot. You're not going to see much of anything getting shot. I mean, we got down to those numbers when they did their CWD crap here, and it was horrific. I think that you have a healthy number of deer. I think there's some areas that could definitely use a few less deer. Like where I hunted up by the thumb, I think there's a couple sits I had like well over 20 deer go past me in one sit. One time almost 30. That's too many deer. But when 90% of them are does and 100% of them are does and spikes, there's a management issue based on ratio and based on herd health, where you want to see a balanced number of maturity of animals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So here's just an interesting stat here that I had pulled up. So only about 4 to 7% of antler deer harvested over the past decade, an average of just under 32,000 antler deer annually statewide, have been a second antler deer taken by the same hunter. About 80% of hunters each year do not take any antlerless deer. That's for the state of Michigan.
Yeah, that's part of the problem. But part of it is they force you to pay for those tags. I think
Right.
those tags should be free. I don't think they should be selling our game animals. I don't even think that's right. It's morally incorrect, morally and ethically incorrect to sell game animals, unless they do. Even with turkeys, like in Wisconsin, you want another turkey tag? Here's how much it costs you to buy another turkey tag. Here's how much it costs to buy a third turkey tag. I've got 3 turkey tags. I had to pay for all 3 of them. I had to buy 3 licenses to hunt 3 turkeys. That's
Well,
bullshit.
it's all under the guise of promoting conservation, right?
Well, it's not, because it's under the guise
that's
of it,
how it's
but it's
sold, though.
not. They're like, oh, we need that money for management. No, bullshit. You know what? You know what manages the deer herd? You pay your fee to hunt those animals, and then the population number is what determines what your bag limit is. You start getting, as soon as you put money in there, you start skewing it. Like I saw better turkey hunting before they started selling those extra tags, and I believe, to me, they can't give up that money now. So even if there's not enough freaking turkeys, as long as you're shooting toms and there's hens to rebreed, you can just shoot jakes every year. You know what I mean? They'll sell you all the time the turkey tags you want, as long as they keep getting money, because it becomes about money instead of management. You're supposed to, in a management situation with wild game, you buy a squirrel license. What happens when they start charging you per squirrel, per rabbit?
So
That's what they're getting to. That never used to be the case, and it wouldn't have been. You know, if you went back to the 70s and 80s, people would have got firing mad if they tried charging you per animal you shot with deer. I don't think it's right.
so
I
you're
think
saying buy a hunting license, but not a deer license. That's what you're advocating? Huh.
correct. You don't buy.
Interesting.
No, you buy a deer license.
But
You wanna
not a
hunt
tag per animal.
deer
right?
license. You're managing the deer herd with that money. But that money is not per deer you shoot or per tag. It isn't like the state should get a bonus because you kill more deer.
Right.
They should determine how much money do we need from this group of hunters. This is how much we do it for tags. Now, how many animals can they shoot each? What species can they shoot, or what sex can they shoot? What age class can they shoot? How many points should they have? They manage it by bag limit, not charging you per animal. And that's where they're making a mistake in Michigan. They're greedy about the does. They want more does shot. When a guy buys a license, they should determine, well, this guy should be allowed to shoot X number of does, X number of bucks. Maybe they give you permits. You know, you get 4 or 5 tags. In Wisconsin, we started getting that back with the does. I don't like how they're micromanaged, but when I buy my tag, they'll tell me, okay, in your unit that you chose for does, you're allowed this many does, and this is how many tags you're going to get for free.
Right. Yeah,
They
I mean,
do,
what are
however,
you getting, what are you
allow me
getting
to
by
buy
you?
extra ones so they can get more money.
See,
I mean,
but
what are they giving you right now? I mean, for where you're at typically.
Last year I got six doe tags. Free.
Between the two, between firearm and archery, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah,
There were
well-
people that got 8.
Yeah,
I
that's
know people
where
who got
I'm at. Where I'm at, so I buy a firearm license, I buy an archery license. Combined, I'm able to kill 10 deer without having to
Yes.
buy a single extra bonus tag. Now, if I
So
wanted to shoot more than 10, I mean, that's
So
$2 and 8 does.
Now let's say that the 3 of us went hunting by Lou's place, and we each got given 5 tags.
Right.
Now I'm there for a week. You're there for a week. Lou hunts there all the time. Lou likes meat. He's going to probably try to shoot his 5 deer. There's
He
5
likes
does,
to kill
right?
things.
Yeah, he's just a murderer. So I'm there for a week and I want to concentrate on bucks. I don't shoot my 5. Maybe you're there and you're like, well, I'll take 1, but I really want to concentrate on bucks, but I really want to come home with a deer. So you shoot 1. It balances out. You know what I'm saying? But the fact of the matter is that you shot that 1 because you had that doe tag. You wouldn't have bought that tag on that 5-day hunt. And there's a lot of guys in Michigan that are, like you said, that 80% or whatever, that will not shoot a doe. A lot of that's because they don't have a doe tag in their pocket and they're not going to go spend $20 for one. They already bought a license. Hand them the tag free. That would solve that issue.
So, you, earlier you were more of a proponent for $1 because it would better the herd. And now you're saying shouldn't have tags? Are you speaking in general in all states?
You're
And just shoot
misunderstanding me.
deer?
I'm not saying you shouldn't have tags. Didn't say that.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand what you just said there.
I'm saying that the tag should be a bag limit. It's just like fishing.
Okay.
But say you had tags for your fish. How many bass are you allowed when you go out fishing? You like spearing northerns. How many are you allowed?
2.
2. So that's a bag limit. What
Yeah,
if they
that's-
said, what if they said, okay, you got your 2? You want 5 more today? $50 a tag. Is that good for management?
No.
No, not at all. They shouldn't be selling tags.
It's good at bringing money in.
They should be giving you a bag limit. Now with deer, you'd have to do that through tags. Give them $1 tag. Give them maybe 5 doe tags. Maybe in the UP you don't get a doe tag, or maybe you get one, maybe you don't. Maybe it's a draw. Maybe everybody gets 1 doe tag in the UP. But however it is, it should be a bag limit because they don't sell wild game. They manage it. The license that you buy should be your contribution to management. They should not be allowed to sell wild game. They should not be able to sell per deer you want to shoot and that kind of stuff. You buy your license, it should be a bag limit, and you'd get a lot more does shot in your state if the people had the tags in their pocket.
I don't doubt that. You keep saying free doe tags, and that's interesting. I find that very interesting. But I just wish where the doe numbers are high, that they would charge $5 or $10, assuming that a full price tag is 20. That's incentive, and they'll figure out where people buy those up. You know.
Why sell them?
Oh, hey, listen, I'm not arguing with the free. I think that's interesting. I love that thought, but they're not going to do it, okay? So, but they need to incentivize it. It needs to be less than a full price tag. And I'm not seeing enough of that. I think if they
I
were,
think they're as likely to make it a free tag as they are to lower the price, in my opinion.
well, it doesn't sound like they're doing either, and they should.
Right. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
I-
But
I-
if you're serious about the numbers are out of hand with does, the way to do it is free tags.
Yeah,
and
in areas.
I shouldn't say free. The way to do it is to do it legally, and you buy your license, and then they manage the herd instead of selling you deer. They shouldn't
Right,
sell
and
you
you could
deer.
do it regionally too. I mean, you could do it by region. So, I mean, if, like you said, if the UP, if their doe numbers aren't what it is in the South, or even just the number of deer in general, you set it based on the regions, right? I mean, isn't that the way it should be managed? I mean, it nothing should.
Oh,
be
right, for
blanket.
sure. For sure, you don't give somebody tags where there's not enough deer to support it. And to Lou's point, they could say, well, this area can support $2. I get that. I mean, like you go to a place like, as much as people would get mad at me for saying this, say Buffalo County, Wisconsin, where there's very few persons per acre because of how much it costs to hunt, and there's no public land because everybody's leasing. If they wanted to do $2 there, more power to them, because you know these properties are huge and they only have 1 or 2 people on them. So I mean, there they could actually handle shooting $2. But so I can't really say for sure that you're wrong in that area that you were talking about. You shouldn't have $2. But I would say I'd highly lean on it should probably be part of that $1 rule. In my opinion, but I haven't seen it to know that.
The Northwest 13 is doing very well, and I'm nearly certain, I wish I had the current regs, I'm nearly certain they have a restricted first tag and second tag. There's APRs, okay? Somebody commented, I think it was Derek, that there's no difference
Derek hasn't
in,
commented at all.
pardon me?
He hasn't commented at all. I haven't seen anything from Derek.
Oh, okay.
And,
And
I'm joking, Derek.
right.
You have a lot of opinions, and honestly, I can't interject all of it. If you would want to lump sum, like a nice long comment, an idea here, I will bring it up because I know you have some disagreements and some other ideas here. So feel free to type something up a little bit larger, kind of getting your point out. I did see that you spoke at the meeting, so it seems like you are very passionate about this and you might have some insight. So I'd love to hear from you.
so and thanks for that. But I think, and it's hard to stay into the conversation and read the side chat, but I thought he wrote earlier that APRs and OBRs have something similar. And all I'm going to say to that is in the Northwest 13, they're very happy with the herd up there. And they have not went to $1 rule. And so on the terms of opportunity, and kind of maybe I misunderstood what you were saying earlier, Dan, about bag limits and not selling tags and all that, but it almost sounded like you were saying something very similar to me. I'm all for the opportunity. I want people to have opportunity. And yeah, it's not ideal. It's not big buck management. But I don't know that the state should be charged with big buck management. I'm going to kind of pick on Zone 3 again. They've got big bucks down there. And in Northwest 13, they've got big bucks. So, and they don't have to, and nobody has to shoot a second buck. If they want to shoot one big buck and stop, they're fine with that. So I guess I'm a little bit against $1 rule, but if it passes, I'm not going to say I'll never hunt there again.
If the state's not shouldn't be in charge of managing deer, who should?
I'm not saying, no, they shouldn't be in charge of managing for big bucks. They should be in charge of managing for opportunity.
I never said anything about managing big bucks.
I didn't say you did. I just said that they're doing
I'm
fine.
saying a more balanced herd, and a more balanced herd just naturally comes with bigger bucks.
Okay.
So that's my opinion. I think they should be in charge of balancing the herd and making a correct ratio, correct age classes, and doing that through proper management instead of, making money off of selling tags, and selling deer, and you might be completely correct that area, can handle $2 and everybody's already happy, and that's fine. But I do think that most places where they do one buck tag, especially in heavy populations of people, greatly helps.
Okay. I'm not trying to say, if I misspoke and said the DNR should manage the deer herd, that's not what I mean. That's not what I tried to say. They shouldn't be managing for big bucks. They shouldn't be catering to make
They
this a
shouldn't
big
be managing
buck.
for big bucks. They should be managing for a proper herd.
And
a
that's what
proper
they're-
herd actually comes with big bucks.
And that's how they're selling this, but I'm failing to see like the incentive of balancing the herd other than trimming back the buck harvest and shortening some seasons.
Well, is there
So-
a difference here between a proper herd and actually managing the herd here? Like, I mean, when you say
Yeah, you're talking about an age class. You're talking about health. You're talking about a bunch of
okay,
things.
age
Now, the
class is
trouble-
a thing then.
Yeah, for sure
is
it's a
where-
thing.
is where you're
I mean,
going
do you
with
want to
it.
just shoot fawns and year and a half old bucks? I mean, if you go back in Wisconsin, back
But I
to
know some folks that do.
when I was a kid, like 95% of the deer that were shot were a year and a half old. I mean, if you got a fork or a spike, you're happy. And that's all everybody shot, and everybody like fought any kind of management to change that.
Yeah.
I mean, hardly. And you start seeing the deer herd get better, then you see people liking it, but they all want to fight change, any kind of change. And I don't think that you could possibly hurt the Michigan deer herd by shooting less bucks. I really don't. I think you could butt hurt some people for a short period of time, and I think they'd get over it. I don't want to argue that for the Michigan people though, because I'm not from Michigan. It's not my argument. It's not my fight. It's more Lou's fight than mine.
Sure.
I'd be a little more involved if it was Wisconsin telling me that they wanted to go to $1 rule, and I'd probably be all for it in Wisconsin. I think we got heavy pressure. I think just about anywhere in the state of Wisconsin. Most areas of Wisconsin would be way better on a $1 rule, $1 total.
Are you in what areas are you thinking specifically in Wisconsin?
The area of Wisconsin?
Just Wisconsin in general.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I had another thought here, and now I lost that thought. What was the other point that we wanted to get to? We had one other bullet point here we wanted to bring up.
What were they?
At least one. I'm just pulling this back up here. Lou?
I think we talked about moving the gun season back when we were talking about muzzleloader. I think that was, and
Yeah.
that's not on this list, but, and combining those early antlerless, I don't think anybody's opposed to that. The early stuff is
Yeah.
getting out of hand.
Move up the late antlerless season to begin after the December firearms muzzle.
And that's one thing I'm seeing, other than what they think the new combo is, that's actually trying to balance, in my opinion, balancing the population is bringing down the doe numbers more so than shooting less bucks. But potato, right? I mean, I clearly if you shoot less bucks, but we've already established that so few people are shooting $2. Dan's point is they wouldn't be shooting the littler bucks, and that would balance the herd because well, maybe not balance the herd.
I think a big part of this working, they're missing, which is getting people to shoot more does.
And that's
I think you should shoot a few more. I don't think that they have to shoot a lot. If they bring the buck numbers up, it'll balance. But I do think some does got to get shot, and especially some areas. And that should be done more localized to areas, which I have to think they've got biologists. Biologists are going to kind of try and micromanage that to areas. I can't see them implementing what's on that thing without having some sort of, like the UP and portions of the UP have this, portions of southern Michigan have way too many does, portions don't. They almost have to manage per the area to some degree. I don't like the micromanaging of a county like we have in Wisconsin. That gets a little bit of a pain in the ass. But I do think there should be zones specific to it where they allow more does and stuff. And you get people to shoot does, especially in places that have a culture for not, by giving the doe tags free.
I like that.
Maybe you said that one area you thought there's no reason why they can't shoot $2. What if they, okay, where you said that the area that has big bucks already, and I think you're talking like Jackson County around there, right?
Well, no, the Northwest 13 is where they have antler point restrictions, and in the southern and Zone 3, they also have good bucks. So those two areas, okay.
So if you got good bucks there and you got a lot of them, you're saying, right?
Yeah.
How about in those areas, if they have a high doe number, they do the earn a buck on a second buck. Force the guy to shoot a doe.
I don't know a lot about earn a buck, but I've learned from you, and I just you're knowledgeable on this stuff. I'm not a biologist. You're real in tune to this. I've always taken you at your word and never really questioned you why earn a buck doesn't work. So when I hear people bring it up, I'm like, you just beat it into my head, and so I accept it.
Let's look at one thing that happens in Wisconsin with doe hunting. When you do it the way Wisconsin's doing, Wisconsin's having specific doe seasons.
We
They
do
try
too.
to force people to hunt does, and then they give a bunch of tags. And like I said, you get 6 free tags or whatever, and you get the meat hunters, if I want to coin people that way, that go out on these doe hunts. And I hate it. I think nobody should go on those doe hunts because they promote it. But what happens is, now I know a biologist who you know him too a little bit, Lou, because he used to come on the Beast until the DNR put the axe into that because they got mad because he was telling the truth. But he was a friend of mine. He was a big biologist in the DNR, and he gave me the stats that they don't like you to know. And the stats were, during these doe seasons, 33% of the does were button bucks, and 11% of them in the later season were shed antlered bucks
Shed bucks,
in our state. I mean, literally half of the deer shot in the doe season were bucks. Literally. They also had a certain percentage. It was like, they didn't know for sure, but they thought it was between like 4 and 7% were incidental, where guys would think they're shooting a doe and they shoot a spike or something,
Yeah.
or they shoot a buck and they poach it. There's an incidental number, and it was a fairly high. It was like up to 7%. That they had a good idea that this was going on, but they couldn't like actually grasp the total number because obviously people are hiding that. But I can tell you that after the doe seasons, every year here, while scouting in the spring, I find deer that were shot and left, and a lot of them are small bucks.
Yeah.
So I don't like the doe seasons for that reason specifically, that they're doe only. Usually during a gun season, if a guy's got a tag, like on our drives, there have been occasions where somebody shoots a small buck and they're like, there's somebody that'll put a tag on it because we have the
Party tag.
party tags. Even if we didn't have a party tag and it was breaking the law, we would not leave a deer to rot and somebody put a tag on it and just
Right.
you bend the law a little bit just because you're not going to waste an animal or whatever, and you're not going to call the DNR and turn somebody in for poaching for making a mistake unless it's like a ongoing thing. You're going to, as a group, come down on them. And you can like me or not like me for saying that, but that's the truth in every group in Wisconsin. Or
Disclaimer: the Hunting Beast does not promote any illegal hunting activities of any sort. All right,
But I'm just
continue.
saying that happens. You have a young guy in the group who's gung ho, and a doe jumps up and he shoots it, and it's got
Right.
4-inch spike on one side. But at least during a season where you can shoot bucks and does, that's somebody's going to put a tag on it, right? But man, did they kill the button bucks? See what a button buck. If you look at like when they shoot these deer, it's after gun season. Usually, or during gun season. A button buck has just been displaced in rut from its mama. Mama kicks the button buck out right at rut, and that is the stupidest deer in the woods, and it's lost. It is completely on its own. It doesn't know what to do. It's just been kicked out in the streets. And it's just wandering around in daylight. It don't know any better. It's bedding stupid. It'll bed out in some grass and stuff. Those are the ones that everybody's kicking up. They're doing drives. They're the easiest deer to kill. And they kill the numbers of those like you would not believe. So they're really killing bucks in a lot of cases when they're doing that.
Right. I mean, and there's no way. I mean, if you're just trying to regulate the antlerless herd, there's no way to regulate it. I mean, other than not having those dumb antlerless only.
I think the antlerless seasons really promote that. We get guys out here doing massive doe
The
drives.
DNR doesn't care.
Right? They don't. They're
don't
number
care.
managing. They're managing by numbers, and they're selling tags.
Yeah.
They're selling deer.
That's why it
So-
doesn't say, did you harvest a doe? It asks, was it antlerless or antlered? That's all they
Right,
care.
because they do that for a reason. The reason they don't say was it this many button bucks, this many does, this many bucks, because you can even shoot a buck as a doe if it has antlers of a certain size, like spikes that are shorter than 3 inches is considered an antlerless deer, and it goes into the number of does. So they'll do this thing and go, to manage the herd, we shot 100,000 antlerless deer, when literally 33% of those were fawns and spikes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they don't even identify it as bucks and does. It's antlered.
Correct. They do that, like I'm saying, it's on purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
It's on purpose so that you don't know that a high percentage of those are bucks. Like I said, the biologist that came on our site and was answering questions, we had an Ask the Biologist. You can still find the old threads on the Beast. We set him up with an Ask the Biologist thread on our forum, and pretty soon the DNR said he could not act as a DNR official on there. So we were like, okay. We took DNR out of it. We just said he's a biologist. Ask the biologist. Then he was demoted and forced to go work in a different county and move his family, as a punishment for telling people the truth about CWD and about about deer management.
Yeah.
Not trying to say anything negative about them. There's good people in the DNR. I think it's mostly the upper management. Like the wardens are great people, the biologists are great people.
Correct.
But
Yep.
the DNR in Wisconsin, I don't know about Michigan, but our DNR is managed by whatever political party is in office. So the governor of Wisconsin manages our DNR. So when it changes hands, like when it went from who's our last governor, Walker.
Yeah.
So when it went from Walker to Evers, Evers fired all the people that Walker put in and hired new people. And then when he's done, and if a Republican comes in, they'll fire all the people Evers put in.
I mean,
and
even
put
if
their
it's a
people in.
Democrat, it'll probably be his neighbor and his golf.
And that's
buddy.
what happened with the even when we had Democrats, we had them put do favors. The only good one we had was Walker. Walker put really actually qualified, but he's a hunter too. Walker was a hunter,
Right,
But
he
he
was
put
bringing in
qualified
real deer
biologists and stuff
biologists,
in there.
yes.
He's the guy that hired the guy that was talking to me that was on the Beast.
Dr. Deere.
No, he hired him too.
Yeah,
But
right,
he's the
he
guy
did,
that hired
yeah.
the
With
the
one from-
biologist,
yeah,
made the
from farm.
position for it, right?
Sure.
But when Evers got in, I mean, a lot of it was favors. A lot of people don't even have any business in the DNR managing anything with wildlife. They have no skill there. Instead of being people that grew up in that, realm or went to school for that kind of stuff, it's just somebody that needs a job and made a donation to your campaign. And the same thing, like when they sell a property, the money doesn't necessarily go back into hunting. It doesn't go back into deer. That's why I have such a big problem with them selling all the hunting properties around my house.
Yeah.
Where does that money go? They won't tell us. I mean, maybe Evers' kid got a brand new Mercedes. I have no idea, but it's not going back into hunting, Or they tell us. They tell us, hey, we took this money. This is what we did with it.
Sure. I found this here, and not to, I mean, obviously the same subject here, but I just found this interesting that it says this recommendation would ensure all deer license. This is we're going back to Michigan here. The recommendation would ensure all deer license require or include options for taking antlerless deer, which would shift Michigan's deer harvest ratio away from the persistent bias towards antler deer, according to the proposal from the Michigan DNR.
Well, that
So
sounds like that's
is
the right
it-
direction.
Right. So, Lou, would you say that there is a bias towards antler deer? I mean, I think, generally speaking, I mean, we touched on this earlier. Dan had spoke about it that, yeah, I mean, given the chance, most guys would want to shoot a buck over a doe. First off, even if you're a meat hunter, there's going to be more meat on a buck versus a doe, especially a mature buck. And obviously, a more
I'm
mature
not sure
buck
anybody
is going
says
to be
everybody
even
likes
bigger.
playing with antlers. Some like it more than others.
Exactly, right? But I mean, is that because now I've heard some other things, and this is obviously from certain individuals or whatever, where it was really important. Where I believe there was a time in where you had to apply for doe tags in certain parts of Michigan, and maybe it was just the UP, and maybe up north as well. But it was important that you applied for that, and if you didn't, it was kind of frowned upon amongst your hunting party. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
When I moved here in 1990, I only bow hunted, and then in '95 I started gun hunting, and I started going up north. And the culture up north were primarily buck hunters. Some people would go so far as to apply for that doe tag so they could throw it in the trash. So they took it from somebody that would shoot that doe. So there was a bias towards antler deer, definitely. In my 30 years since then of hunting, I've seen that wane quite a bit. Everybody I hunt with and most people I know don't have as big a problem shooting does. I've shot way more does than bucks. But everybody wants to shoot a buck.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, absolutely. Dan, do you think that there was a time here in Wisconsin that, or do you still feel like there's a bias towards antler deer? I mean, and I guess that when you say it like that, it does kind of sound silly.
What I think is that it's kind of weird because people's thoughts and minds change on subjects based on conditioning. When I grew up, people did not shoot does. I mean, it was a big thing that the does create the bucks, and there were few deer. There's a good reason for it. I mean, you could go you know, you'd be hunting for 3-4 days and cut a track, and people would be like, "Oh, come on, you didn't really see a track," you know. So why would you shoot a doe? I mean, they're the producers; they produce the deer, right?
Right.
But as numbers got higher and more deer started coming up, and the population started to increase, and there started to become an opportunity where it really wouldn't damage the herd to take a doe or two. People wouldn't do it because they were still on that bias of, you know, you don't shoot the producers. You know, they'd remember what their father and their grandfather taught them, and it would go on and on and on. And the only way to break that bias was to get some people to shoot some does in groups, and it would slowly dissipate. And the same thing would happen in Michigan, in my opinion. If you gave them free tags, the guys that killed does would kill does, and other people would see that. And like Lou said, it's not as much a bias anymore. However, when I hunted the UP with Eric, and we were in an area in the UP where there were a lot of does, and we decided to each take one big, giant, mature doe that probably wasn't even breeding anymore. Both of our does were well over 150 pounds dressed, over 200 on the hoof. They're
Wow.
giant mutant does. They're like horses. We each took one. I never got so much hate for shooting those two does. I've never gotten that hate anywhere in the country that I got hunting in the UP. And all the stay home and stay out of our state kind of messages. I've never seen that. Most places, the majority of the messages I get are welcoming. But it was because we shot does. Literally.
Derek's back, and he said, of course there is a buck bias. I've never seen the hunting beast teach us how to hunt down a mature doe.
Right? Yeah.
True story, Derek. And glad to see you back here commenting.
I would agree with that. I mean, we all want to
absolutely.
shoot does. I mean, bucks. But I do, and a lot of people don't get that. No, literally, I don't talk about it much. But I do like shooting antlerless deer, and I used to shoot a lot more than I do now. I just, you know, in a lot of cases, and it's a bias, and it's not what our DNR wants or our managers want or our biologists. But I got, you know, if I'm set on shooting a trophy buck and I'm set up for them, and I shoot a doe, I'm screwing up my hunt.
Right.
And I can think of a couple of times when I shot does when I think I may have blew an opportunity. One of them was I was hunting with my son James, and he was very young at the time, and he was just starting to film. And I put him in a section, and I hunted not far from him across an old field that wasn't being farmed anymore. That was like, you might say CRP, but it was more like brush that was like head high, right? So it was a nasty tangle. But we were only a couple hundred yards away, a few hundred yards away, right? He had two bucks come in, and one of them was an absolute giant that came just out of range of him, walked past him and headed straight for me, and this is before cell phones. And I never saw that buck. And right about the time that he saw that buck, I shot two different does that came in. We were bow hunting, but I wouldn't doubt it if me shooting those does caused me not to get that buck. You know, so
Right.
that
I mean,
right there is not great management. But at the same time, I do like shooting does. I do shoot does. I tend to now shoot a lot more of them with my gun when we're doing gun drives,
Yeah.
because you could shoot a doe and then shoot a buck too, right? But I get my meat that way because I love deer meat.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there is a bias for sure, but not everybody has that. Lou doesn't have that. Lou loves shooting does, and
Shooting deer.
I love shooting them with the bow, but I'm just so worried about blowing my hunts that every year I say I'm going to shoot 3 or 4 does this year. And it's just every time I have an opportunity, I think, geez, do I really want to shoot one back here 2.5 miles back? And, you know, do I really want to, you know, but I get a lot of opportunities with does. It's just a matter of I'm either going to ruin a hunt or I'm going to have to drag it out a long ways. And I wish that wasn't the case, but it just is.
Well, I mean, you've spoken about this plenty of times, where you've said, I don't really believe in a doe hunt, right? Where some guys say, you know, I'm specifically
go doe
going
hunting.
out to take a doe. You know, say it's
It's hard
early
for me to
season
waste
or
the
something
day.
like that,
Mhm.
right? Every hunt should be a buck hunt. If
If you-
there's
if
an
you wanna-
opportunity,
It depends, though. I'm not saying it should be.
Yeah.
I'm saying if your goal It depends on the person, right?
That's true.
I'm not saying Lou should
Correct.
only shoot bucks, right? I'm saying if your goal is to shoot a monster buck
Yes.
and you're hunting a certain animal,
Right.
if you waste days hunting does, you only got so many days in a season.
Yeah.
You need to spend those days in that time after your target animal if you want results. That's what I say. I'm not saying that everybody should be like me. And I never portray that with anything that I do. I don't think anybody should mirror themselves with me. I think what they should do is take the good from me that can help them and take the bad and say, Dan, you can keep that.
You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have
Right.
the facts of life. All right, now we're dating.
All right.
I'm going to pull up a question here. This is from John, and he says, so what do you think would be the best for any state whose population is not good? I remember Vermont having too many deer, and the genetics were awful. My hunting dog, which was bigger than the deer. I mean, just so we're just going to go generally here with any state if they feel like the population isn't great.
Here's how I would do it. If you have a lot of deer, shoot more deer. You don't have a lot of deer, shoot less deer.
Yeah.
So in
basically
that
what it is.
case, I mean, doing something like Michigan's proposing, that's
I want to see them shoot. I want to see opportunity for everybody, and I want to see them where the does are heavily populated. I want to see I'd love a free tag. I don't feel that's going to happen. I'd like to see a reduced price tag. That would tell me they're serious about balancing the herd.
what do you really think it is about, Lou? I mean, because you keep referencing that it's about balancing the herd, but you seem skeptical of it. What do you think it really is?
Every few years, every 5-10 years, we get a push to make this a trophy. Not trophy, but to improve the buck hunting, and it's going to be at the demise
More
of the
mature.
opportunity, in my
I know
opinion.
it's about improving the bucks. I mean, it is about improving the bucks to a
It's
degree.
well
But
because
that's the bonus out of it. That it's about managing the herd.
I hope, but it always seems like it's from a group, and I don't know where this recent push is from. I would love to know. I'm sure somebody does. But usually there's a push for antler point restrictions, and now it's 1 buck rule, and there's talk of even going further. It's not in what was brought up, and we could probably stay there, but there's a lot of talk. And
Let's
Go
be the devil's advocate once. So you've had 2 bucks, you like that, and they want to go to 1 buck, and they want to manage the herd a little different, where they kill more does, and they're actually promoting that. It said it in the thing. They're going to do some things to promote killing more does. So they want to kill less bucks, more does, balance the herd. So let's say they do the opposite. Instead of 2 bucks, they do 4. Do you think that's going to help?
I don't think it, well, honestly, and I know you're just saying that to make a point. I don't think it would hurt because the way it is right now, only 6% are shooting 2 bucks. So, I mean, it's going to be even a smaller percentage to shoot those 4 bucks. So, really, I don't think that's
I think more people are going to hunt harder if they have more tags.
I don't
I
know.
mean, I seen when you get down south and they can shoot, like, there are certain areas where you used to be able to shoot a buck a day. And you would never see giant bucks. You'd never see good management. You'd
Right.
see all does, and it would just be. It sucked. The hunt sucked for them until they started changing their ideas about management, and started to lock people down to from a buck a day to four bucks a year, to then to 2, then to 1. And when you started seeing that, you started seeing the hunting get better for everyone. But you saw a hell of a lot of fight back and kickback
Yeah.
on the path there. But my point is, everywhere they've done these things, the hunting has got better. Everybody's happier. But you always have kickback in the beginning.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, for myself, I can roll with whatever they do. I'm more thinking of certain people that are going to just get ticked and go away. You don't think that's a problem? I do. We saw it with the bait. They went away. You explained your opinion
That's a whole
on
fucking way of hunting. That's the
And-
way that's ingrained in their whole style. I mean, I talked to people when they banned hunting and bait hunting in Michigan the first time. I had a lot of people contact me that were part of the beast, and most of them want to do it like privately. They don't want to put it out there that, hey, I'm a bait hunter or whatever, but they say, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what to do anymore. Or I'd get the comments like, you actually gave me a way to hunt. Once I got off of the bait, I figured out there's a whole new world. They don't even know what to do. Because if you think about the way it is, they're raised by their dad. You have a bait pile here, and they just go to that bait pile.
Yeah.
And then when you know if they ever have to change spots, they
Learned
just go
it.
put out
Learned
another bait
habits.
pile and they go there. They've never learned how to scout. They've never learned how to read the terrain. They never learned how to hunt. They're lost if you take that away from them. If you take a guy that's a hunter who's been hunting his life, even if he just wanders through the woods getting deer, he has a style, he has a way, he follows a transition or whatever. He shoots a deer when he sees it. You tell him we're gonna change how many you can kill or when you can kill them. That guy ain't going away from hunting. He's gonna bitch a little, but he ain't going away from hunting. You're not stopping him or changing his style or anything else. If you took that away from him, he's no hunter to begin with. I mean, nobody's gonna change or leave hunting because of that. They're gonna bitch to get their way. They're gonna whine and say, "I'm not hunting no more," because that gets their way. Maybe they even go away for a year. The one thing that would take the hunters and actually remove them from hunting wasn't in the proposal, but you brought it up as some people were suggesting it, would be to make it the same gun season as the next door state, which somebody has to choose which state. That would do it, but I don't think you're losing hunters because of that. You're losing hunters for other reasons.
I think there's far more casual deer hunters than there are hardcore big buck hunters.
Yeah,
And
so you think casual deer hunters are going to stop casually deer hunting because of a state rule change?
but I think these rule changes, they could look at limiting their opportunity, and that might seem, you know, if they're casual, they might not care about the two tags, but if you do a bunch of stuff, it could push them out because they just would stop caring. I know a lot of people that just go up because they enjoy the camaraderie of deer camp.
Of a deer camp, sure.
Yeah, so there's not going to be camaraderie in the deer
I don't
camp
know.
no more because
I don't know. I
you only
think I,
shoot 102?
and this wasn't on the proposal, but it is being talked about, pushing the gun season back. You do that, and the up north traditional deer camps are going to take a hit, and that would be a damn shame. When I hear talk of that, that's where I would dig in my heels. I like the tradition. I like Michigan. Honestly, I don't bitch about Michigan very much. I really don't. I really like it.
That tradition is a big thing with the DNRs too, is they try to lock in. Like in our state of Wisconsin, that's the reason they did that holiday hunt, that late season doe hunt. They're supposed to manage based on the people, but they tried to use CWD and all kinds of other crap to
Yeah.
force that doe hunt on us because they knew if they did it for several years, there'd be people that lock their feet in and say, I traditionally hunt that. And they could care less about tradition, but now they're using it as tradition. But they're taking away our traditional late season bow hunt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I didn't quit hunting because I can't late season bow hunt no more. No, I'm not your occasional hunter, but I really don't see those. Even if they dug their heels in and said I'm not hunting anymore, they'd be back in a year. As soon as everybody in their group's killing deer, they're coming back.
I think
What
most
As soon as
they
the
checked
deer are
out
bigger,
for
there's
3
more deer.
years.
I mean,
Let's say they checked out for 3 years, right? They didn't buy a license.
and I don't
And
even
then
think
all
that
of a
would
sudden
happen.
everything really is improving in the quality of the herd, more mature animals and that, and they're seeing that. Maybe they should be locked out till year 5.
See, and I actually hope that happens if they go away. If some people are butthurt, they go away and they do come back.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, what's going to happen? So my fear is that we're going to lose some hunter numbers, which is the biggest thing I'm against.
Yeah, you don't
And if
want
we-
to do that.
If we lose those hunter numbers, regardless of what you think of whether we should buy tags for this or whatever we were talking about earlier, those tag dollars manage the resource. That's how it's set up. And if we lose that, what are they going to do? They're going to raise prices, and they're going to have a real crap show to reverse that.
Maybe they can get rid of some asinine managers that don't do anything. That's what they could do. They
I
don't need
think
the
that's
money
wishful
that they
thinking.
have. They
I
don't
don't-
need the money that they're getting. It isn't about money to me at all.
You could be right.
You take Wisconsin, the more money they give this freaking state, the more they harm me as a hunter. The more we give the DNR, the more damage they do to me. They're getting donations from these like organizations like Pheasants Forever, and they take the
Yeah.
money and they mow down my deer hunting area and make it into a pheasant habitat, make it into grassland.
For a Chinese bird.
Yeah,
Hey,
trust me.
I mean,
I'm-
they do so much crap. They put trails through my freaking woods. We don't have any more remote areas because they got bunch of freaking money from hunters, so they put a freaking road right through the middle of our woods. Yeah, I don't need them to have more money. They got enough money from our tags and stuff. They need to get less workers there and have a few more people that have common sense. They don't need money to manage those deer. That's bull crap.
I'm a limited government guy, but I believe that I believe what the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation says, that hunting is conservation, and it does take a certain amount for that. And I believe that the North American game management model is the envy of the world. And you can go look at the Pittman-Robertson Act, and it took money. And so I'm with you, Dan. I'm a limited government guy, but they are you can't take money away from government. They're addicted to money, and if we take it away, they're going to raise the price of the tags, and that could just, they could get unintended.
Yeah, they'll do that. They'll do what they can to save their asses to keep their money coming in, for sure.
Yeah.
But you got to think too that for all the people that quit hunting because it got better, that don't like the idea that hunting got better, that now we got more deer, we got more opportunity, we got more bucks, the bucks are bigger, everything's great. I don't like that. I'm gone. For everybody that's like that, you're going to have people from other states flooding in to hunt there. And they're going to spend big bucks on non-resident tags. And most people in the management cases that get that start raising the non-resident tags instead of the resident tags because they get voted in more for that. Like Iowa. They reduce the resident tags and blow it up on the non-resident, and then do speeches when they're running for office. We gave it to the non-residents. We screwed them. We're looking out for you guys. You're going to have more hunters when you have better hunting, for sure.
It was actually a point I was just going to bring up, because isn't it kind of a double-edged sword?
Yeah.
I mean, if hunting improves in a particular state, because of, better quality deer, you're going to drive in more non-resident hunters, right?
Sure.
All of a sudden, Michigan's going to be that hot spot.
I can tell you this, since I've become popular, never before I started really getting out there did you see this. But in the last, 6 or 7 years, I'm starting to see non-resident plates all over all the properties all around my house. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
drawing people in because they see what I'm doing, right? And that necessarily isn't the case because, as you know, very few people kill big bucks in my area of the state, mostly western, on public. They kill them on private. Yeah. The public land over here is overrun. But if you got public land in Michigan that started getting real big deer, it's going to attract real big deer type hunters, right? Because really numbers don't attract many people. They attract some. Some non-residents do go to places for numbers. I know people that literally travel from Wisconsin to West Virginia to a place that's got a lot of deer. Crazy. But for the most part, that can be a problem for some of the residents. They do get annoyed by that, and it can cause issues. But they can limit that, like Iowa does, by how many tags they get. It's a good problem to have because of the money you get in. Sure. Not just with tags. Like I forget what I'm paying in Iowa. It's like $600, and it takes me 6 years to get
just
the
to
tag.
apply, right? So I mean, so you would be a proponent for a reasonable limit on non-resident hunters.
That depends. I mean, you got to have a problem first.
Well, correct, obviously.
But if it got to the point where the hunting was that good that it started attracting people, well, then you could limit it. The problem with that is, again, the double-edged sword. The argument against what I'm saying would be that if you have a DNR organization in place and government people involved in that DNR, like the politicians and stuff, they start liking all that non-resident money because they don't just buy a $500 tag.
Right.
Or in Michigan, what is a $200 or $300 tag, but it would go up for sure.
Yeah.
But they don't just buy that; they get a motel room, they rent a bed and breakfast. They stop at all the restaurants. Bars, they stop in the stores and buy stuff. Their wives go to the spa, or the men go to the spa and the wives go hunting. I'm not going there.
Yeah, come on. It's 2026, Dan. Get it together.
But sometimes the money becomes a bigger asset than than management. That's the problem. I do like that the DNR in Michigan is looking at the management of the animals in a proper way, where states like Wisconsin are still stuck on numbers. That speaks volumes for the state, but I think it's more to Lou's point that certain groups are bitching enough to get them to listen.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Michigan. I don't think it's as bad. I mean, we could shoot more does. There's pockets of overpopulations, underpopulation. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. I think there's some big bucks here. I don't know that I want the state of Michigan to grow me bigger bucks so I can be more satisfied.
Can I tell you something that I've heard from several people?
Go ahead.
No.
I've heard from
Yes.
several people that have left Michigan because they don't like the hunting there. They've gone to other places and stopped hunting Michigan completely. I heard from people that live in Michigan that won't hunt in Michigan, that travel to Ohio and travel out of state on all their hunts because they got limited time and they just won't hunt in a place that's so poorly managed. So you're losing numbers, which is your fear, because of the bad management, and you're afraid that good management will lose numbers.
I mean,
Scott Buckley's one of them. He told me that when he was living in Michigan, it was so bad that he was traveling out of state to hunt. Finally, he just moved out of the state.
yeah, where'd he move, to Iowa?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few people that moved to Iowa, not just from Michigan, to chase that dream.
6 or 7.
Yeah, but okay.
Is it a dream though? I mean, it's just good management.
I'm not
you
moving to
wanna-
Michigan.
You're turning into trophy deer, but most people like to shoot mature animals.
Okay.
If you want to shoot lesser animals, I got nothing against that. I don't think Scott has anything against that. I mean,
I
Scott
have-
Buck. But I'm saying that the management of the deer, you would have more deer. You'd have better deer. Anybody that's arguing and stomping their feet saying they're going to quit hunting, bullshit. Because if they're that invested in it that it's bothering them, they're real hunters. Whether they're meat hunters like you, or they're people who are a little more age class oriented and greedy about bucks, maybe trophy hunter you might call them. Either way, they're not leaving Michigan because you make hunting better, or in their eyes worse. They're going to stomp their feet a little bit and keep hunting and be mad about it, but they're not leaving because if they're so invested, I mean, a guy that's casual and goes up to camp a weekend every year, maybe he misses a year here and there that you're talking about, that guy doesn't even know that the debate's going on. They don't even know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
They're not even hearing it.
Yeah,
They'll
I suppose.
They'll hear about like, what do you mean the season moved back a week? Oh, maybe this year I can't go because I got something going on then, but maybe next year I'll come. Those guys that aren't going to quit hunting either. I don't see anybody leaving hunting over this. Maybe some people don't. Nobody is a little strong.
Can't speak in
But I
absolute.
think the number would be very, very low, and I think you'd bring in more hunters than you'd lose.
I hope you're right. I think there's more casual hunters than those that just want to see buck improvement. And I think it's extreme when somebody leaves the state for better deer hunting, goes to another state, and that's their reason.
A lot of extreme people doing that
Yeah,
because of the management.
That's crazy. Michigan's got so much to offer. There's so many things you can do here you can't do in Iowa. In Iowa, you better like deer hunting and cornfields. There's more to Michigan than just deer hunting.
Pure Michigan, right?
You do make a point. Every time I go down to the areas like Kansas and Iowa, it's just like barren.
Yeah, I mean, nothing against those states. Every state's unique. I like Iowa. I like Kansas. I wouldn't move there in a million years. I've spent enough time there. I like Michigan. I like to fish. I like to hunt. You can bear hunt in Michigan. Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin have a lot of diversity. When you start getting,
That's true.
and I mean, there's so much more. If you're leaving to go to Iowa from Michigan to live there, I mean, go for it. I mean, but there's something else going on in your life, or you're just that hung up on big buck hunting. Do it, but I'm not leaving over that. No. And I just like opportunity, and I want to see I like the numbers. How do they manage other species? How do we manage geese? Who doesn't shoot a goose because it's not big enough? And it's
I'll
a
tell you
fraction
that-
of the size of a deer.
You know what does keep me from shooting ducks?
What?
All the rules. Blows my mind. When I was a kid, I shot a lot of ducks,
Yeah.
but I would just go. I was your casual duck hunter. It was food.
Okay.
So I had a license. I walked down a river, jump a duck, and shoot it. I get a mallard or whatever, right? Nowadays, you got these point systems. I got to know every duck I shoot. I got to recognize it in the air, the species, and all that crap. And I just ain't got time to study
Okay.
this stuff and know
There's-
those
Yeah,
rules. Good.
that's true.
So that's where you do have an argument with deer hunting getting too complicated. You'd get guys like me with ducks, right? But I don't think they're making it too complicated. They're just shifting some rules slightly to make the management better, in my opinion.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm not against improving things. I don't want to lose hunters. I don't want to see a bunch of drastic changes all at once.
Well, I think this was a great conversation. Awesome topic. I mean, the comment section has been out of control. Lots of thoughts, lots of opinions, and I think, I mean, it also seems like everybody's kept it very civil too. I mean, just different varying opinions about this entire thing coming from different states. A lot of Michigan people chimed in here tonight. And I think the overall question that everybody really wants to know, Dan, Lou, you guys still friends?
I've always hated that guy.
Okay. Yeah, you know, the best part about the whole thing to me is that it gets people talking. At least these proposals, which will probably never go through because people will bitch too much, but at least gets people thinking. And you don't just get set in a way that this is the way it is here. I think there's always room for improvement. I do kind of like Lou's approach of like we don't have to do this all in 1 year. I do think it's kind of scary to do that much at once. But like I said, I don't disagree with Lou on a lot of it. I think really the only thing that we really disagree with is whether or not people will quit hunting over it.
I think you're right. I think that is our primary, and that's my biggest concern. And I know some of us go hunting on public land, and we say, I don't want more hunters, I want less. But and it'll go back to the money thing, and I don't want to go there. But we need everybody. It's a dying sport. We need everybody. And
I don't think we need the money part of it, but I do agree with you. I want as many people hunting as possible. I think the whole world would be a better place if everybody's house was a deer camp.
there.
I
So,
like that.
Scott, in summary, I think you were trying to wrap up. We just determined that Dan agreed with everything I said, and when he didn't, he was wrong. So there's the show.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think that's what the comment
spot
section's
on.
been showing too. I mean, by and far,
Big
the
bucks.
consensus is yes. No, great show, great topic. I really like the fact that you guys had that conversation after last week's show, and kind of triggered this whole thing. It was awesome, and everybody got a bonus episode out of it here tonight. So, no harm, no foul. And good luck, Michigan, with wherever this ends up going.
Yeah,
like
it'll
Dan
be
mentioned
fine.
earlier, in Wisconsin, we don't really have a dog in this fight. I mean, should we care? To an extent, absolutely. I mean, should we care about the community as a whole? I mean, the hunting community? Absolutely. And I think the varying opinions, hold some weight.
Yeah.
So,
Well, one thing that's really cool about it is like if Michigan goes this route, it's going to be an example for everybody else. However, it has been done in other places like
It has.
Indiana and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And that's been an example. But I think Michigan has such a huge hunting group that it'll be stuck in everybody's face what happens out of it.
right. There's a lot of
I mean,
passion. with
there's even
Michigan
some people in
hunters, for sure.
management they make these decisions. They could lose their jobs over what happens.
Yeah.
So I
a good
think it will be interesting to see how all this rolls out and whether or not they actually have the balls to go through with it.
You mentioned Indiana. Look at Pennsylvania. I know they went through something very similar. How long ago was it now? 5-10 years ago? And people seem to be pretty excited there. So, if we can go along the same route, maybe that's good. But I've stated my case. I won't recite it.
Sure. Well, Lou, thanks a lot for joining us tonight. This was a great conversation, and it's always a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Dan, what do we have in store for next week? We got another show on Tuesday.
Yeah, what do we have?
I don't know. I'm supposed to
I
be
kind
on
of throw all that
that.
stuff at you, and you keep
Yeah,
track of it.
exactly. Well, we'll have a show. I can tell you that.
I usually call Scott about 5 minutes before the show and ask him who we have this week. Um, so it's kind of strange to have him ask me.
Right? No, we got it. We've got it taken care of. Or we will by next Tuesday.
I know we have somebody lined up. I just
Yes,
don't remember
we do.
who.
So, stay tuned. You'll find out next week Tuesday. I hope you guys enjoyed the bonus episode tonight. This was a lot of fun, like I said, multiple times here now. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Beast Report. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, everybody.